Oh my god, why did you cut off all your hair?
My hair kept overstimulating me, and then I realized, oh, I can just cut it all off. And then I did. And now I'm not overstimulated.
It's gone.
Also, I look cute.
This is exactly the reason I had a buzz cut numerous times, and I've been this close to shaving literally all of my hair off again ever since I started growing it out again. Because it's constantly tickling everywhere. It's tickling in my face, it's tickling on my ears, it's tickling on my neck now that it's long enough to do that. Plus, it is like one more thing to do. Like, if you have hair this short or like a buzz cut, it doesn't get that oily. Like, obviously it still gets oily, but even if it does, it doesn't look that bad. And it's like way easier to take care of, and just like it dries way quicker, and it's just way more pleasant all the way around. And I'm really fighting the urge to just literally shave it all off again right now. It's just so much easier, and you don't have to deal with hairdressers, which is my personal hell probably. Hello baby Chris, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing some neurodivergent TikToks again. I have a feeling I forgot some somewhere that aren't in the folder I'm about to use for this video, but you know, we'll find them eventually. But either way, you know the deal. Before we continue, y'all gotta get hydrated. So grab some water, or some tea, or whatever else you like to drink, and then we'll continue. Are you hydrated? Good. Let's go.
I was today years old when I realised that my addiction to this, the need to have one every single day, is a sensory seeking thing. In the same way as drinking, when I was in my 20s and I was working and I was in pubs after work with people in loud environments, was not just for masking, but it was also a sensory avoiding thing in a way, because it really stopped me realising how much sensory overload I was going through. Same way as I thought that I had a problem with binge eating. I don't think it is that. I think it's a sensory thing. I think in the evening, I need to be chewing on something. It's a stim, and it's specifically a sensory thing around the texture of the kind of chocolate that I like. Good to know.
I mean, I think you're one of many people who realizes things like this very late. Like, I was convinced I had an eating disorder. I'm not so sure anymore if it was actually that, or if I was just constantly like either understimulated or overstimulated, and just like trying to find like nice stimuli to balance it out, or just like finding any stimuli to not be understimulated on a constant basis. That maybe it was just that. I have no way of telling anymore, obviously. And as far as alcohol goes, I think we've all, well, probably not all of you, and I really wish most of you haven't, but I feel like we've all used alcohol at some point. Or at least a lot of neurodivergent people have used alcohol at some point to either calm themselves or to like make like the overstimulation better, because you don't recognize it as much when you're slightly tipsy. Will it backfire in the end? Probably. Doesn't help that I don't like most alcohol, you know, but yeah, honestly, knowing you're neurodivergent, especially if you're like diagnosed later in life, will lead to moments like this of just like recognizing random things like, oh, I don't think I'm actually addicted to soft drinks, I just love it as a sensory experience, and that's why I need to have one every day, because it's just like a nice sensory thing for me. Like, I feel like, how long do you have to like know you're a type of neurodivergent to stop having moments like this? I'll let you know when I get there.
My boss was like, how do you have so much energy? And they were laughing, and then like without thinking, I was like, oh, I'm autistic, I'm just masking right now. And like they went flat-faced and went, oh, and in my brain I was like, I chose the wrong dialogue option. Out of all the choices, maybe I should think first. But it was just like, that's why. It's the ADHD.
Did they not know beforehand? Because people always think I had too much coffee, if I have like a day where I can't hide that I'm like really full of energy because, well, it's the ADHD, it makes it hard to sit still, and then people just think I had too much coffee, and I'm just like, bro, I haven't even started drinking coffee yet today. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, maybe it's not actually just that we have too much energy. Maybe it's also that we're trying to compensate and are masking to seem normal, but don't really know how to do that properly. You know, because even if you think you have masking down, you're doing it super well, people will kind of still like not necessarily be able to pick it apart and be like, oh, that person's masking, but they'll be able, well, they'll just kind of think you're maybe a bit strange or too energetic, in your case, apparently.
To the parents who refuse to get their kids diagnosed because they don't want to put a label on them, before I got diagnosed, the labels put on me were difficult, disruptive, lazy, rebellious, annoying, impulsive. And when I got diagnosed, all of those labels were replaced with ADHD. And that was very comforting. Hope this helps.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't have to seek out like an official diagnosis for yourself. But I get what she means, because if your kids is acting a certain type of way and it's literally all just symptoms that you just find annoying because they're lazy and they never listen to you, that shit will be way more damaging. You know, just like constantly being told you're lazy or not humaning right, really, essentially. That shit is way more hurtful and damaging than just knowing, oh, they have ADHD, they have certain symptoms. Because that way you can look in how to manage them and do that without traumatizing your child more, which should be the goal, right? Like, I know, like, in Germany, if you have like an ADHD or autism diagnosis or something, or even like depression, there are certain insurances that you can't get anymore, which is stupid and ableist. But even if that is your reasoning, I still don't think that's a good enough reason to risk traumatizing your child, you know?
Deaf person hears blender with hearing aids in for the first time.
Just thought I'd include this because this is kind of exactly the face I pull, at least inwardly, whenever I hear a blender. Like, I know what to expect, right? I'm not deaf or hard of hearing. I know what a blender sounds like, but I will still always be caught off guard by how loud it is and how weird the noise is, because it's not just loud. It's this weird type of noise, and it's really, really agitating, and I pull this exact face. And I'm just like, make it stop, just make it stop. And I think in this moment this person realized that maybe they're never gonna use a blender with a hearing aid in again. Because that shit's not pleasant.
Clean the kitchen while I'm gone. Do the dishes, wash the counter, sweep the floor, mop, load up the dishwasher, and then unload the dishwasher and put the dishes away.
Like, that's the thing, like, how are they not... Well, actually, I think, like, even between neurotypicals, this would cause communications issues of just being like, hey, please clean the kitchen while I'm gone, because, yeah, some people will include, like, vacuuming and mopping the floors, some people won't, and then the other person will be mad if you didn't do it, even though, like, I know it's kind of exhausting to micromanage someone in a way, to just, like, have to spell out everything. But if you want things done a certain way, you have to do it. If you're just like, please clean the kitchen while I'm gone, and are just kind of, like, happy with anything being done, you know, then, okay, then you don't need to do that. But if you have specific expectations, you kind of really do need to communicate them, because otherwise how is the other person gonna know? I'm kind of having difficulty right now because I know how easily men can come in and take this out of context, because if you've ever had like female friends or coworkers talk about their boyfriends or husbands, you know, then it gets difficult, because these people apparently also need to be micromanaged, because they don't even do something without being told to do something, you know? So not talking about men right now, just talking about, well, actually any communication. Again, if you also just want your husband to do a certain thing, maybe communicate that directly, but if they never help, just dump their ass. I've had this song on repeat, girls. Look at me. When I tell them I can go on days while listening to only one song, and if I try to listen to something else, it just doesn't feel right, and I have to go back to that song because it brings me comfort. And then it's suddenly weird, right? But if it's like, I love this song, I listen to it on repeat, and it's just like them listening to it 3 times, and then just again the next time it comes across in that playlist like 3 days later. That's what on repeat means for them. Maybe they'll listen to it once or twice a day, but then suddenly it's weird. Like, no one's saying you have to listen to one song for a day on end. No one's even saying you have to listen to it for 2 hours on end, but you can't like be judgy if your definition of, oh, I listened to the song on repeat because I fell in love with it, is different to other people's. That still seems strange, right? Because for me, it's usually not days. It's usually anywhere between like 45 minutes and like 2 or 3 hours. Until I'm like, okay, now I can move on. Or I missed that point, and then suddenly it's like, oh, great, now I'm annoyed by the song, you know? So I try not to miss that moment. But why would I care for someone else that's literal days? If it brings them comfort, and if they just enjoy listening to the song so much that that's the only thing they can or want to listen to, what do I care? It literally has nothing to do with me.
I just want him to clean his room, and he's making it seem like a super complicated thing that he doesn't know how to do. Well, slow down. Let's check in. What's going on, buddy? I get very overwhelmed when I'm cleaning, and I don't know exactly what to do. Okay, so he is not making up the fact that he doesn't know what to do, okay? This is one of the things that goes along with autism. What could be very helpful is a list that breaks everything down. A list? You mean, you literally mean like, make the bed, and dust, and push the chair into the table. Yes, it's very simple, but very helpful. And if you want to go even further, you can break the room down into sections and segments. The left segment of the room you start with, and then you go to the right segment. You break it down into parts that are consumable.
And like, the thing is, you don't even need to constantly say this. If you actually take the time and effort to create a list of like, hey, if I say, please clean the kitchen, or please clean your room, or please clean whatever, I mean all the steps, and then just take the time to write the steps down, or maybe even write it in segments, and just be like, listen, it's okay if you start with one segment, you know, if you still feel good to continue, you can obviously do the rest, but like, the left segment of the living room is the most important one, so it'd be great if you start with that. I know it's effort, but literally everything takes effort, but everything takes more effort for autistic people, so if you care about your autistic person, then maybe consider making this list with them and like kind of checking in with them if the steps are broken down enough. You know, because then it's literally just effort once, and then they can just like keep the list on their phone or an actual paper. And then when you're just like running out the door because you're late for your appointment or whatever, you can just like, hey, please clean like the left side of the living room, and they'll know what to do because they can just go, right, list, and check it. It's more effort for like 1 second, but avoids a lot of miscommunication later on, actually. I was the opposite. Like, I love weighted blankets, but I was constantly overheating. Like, I get way too warm constantly. Like, I'm constantly just like walking around in a t-shirt, and I want to wear shorts a lot, and I usually never wear socks. Although that's also just like a general sensory thing, not just an overheating thing. But I get warm so easily that it could never be me. So I will sleep with my weighted blanket, but my legs will be sticking out because otherwise I'm gonna die, and I get so angry when I get too warm, you know, so... Couldn't be me, but I get what you mean, because weighted blankets are literal heaven, and like deep pressure type of thing is also just amazing.
Just a reminder that when we're feeling like shit, movement can really help. It doesn't have to be boring. Go on a walk, learn how to rollerblade, skateboard maybe, sit down and rock, get a trampoline like me. Getting that energy out feels so good. Bye!
In all fairness, I don't know if this person is neurodivergent. It seemed like a very ADHD motivated TikTok, really, but just because it might also be good for neurotypicals doesn't mean it's not also really important, and probably more important if you're any kind of neurodivergent. You know? Because especially if you're someone who struggles with motivating yourself to do things or having too much energy, then finding fun ways to move is really important. Like, sure, it's kind of good for everyone to find movement they actually enjoy, because like not everyone feels like actually going to the gym. Maybe that's too much work, so having like a small trampoline or having a dance party with yourself or whatever it is really can be great, you know. And I know it just kind of seems exhausting, like if you have really no clue where to start because you have no idea what seems enjoyable to you, that's a really not great place to start, because then there are so many possibilities that it's just exhausting. So maybe really just try to do something that you don't even like need to go out and buy equipment for. Like jumping on a trampoline is immensely fun, but maybe you don't have the money to spend. Maybe you don't feel like ordering one online or like looking for someone like something that's good enough or something. You know, like maybe something you can do without. Like maybe just pace around your apartment if you don't feel like going outside for a walk, even though, yeah, sunlight and fresh air literally helps. We're just overcomplicated houseplants, you know. But if you don't have the energy to get dressed and go outside, just pace around your apartment. Maybe go on the balcony, or like if you have one, you know, or do a dance party, something, you know, whatever it is. Maybe start in little ways, and you don't even like need to do half an hour workout. Literally, if you just do 2 minutes, that is great for your body. So I don't know. I hope y'all find something you enjoy doing.
Hi, Rhea. My girlfriend and I are like Bonnie and Clyde, except for crime, it's ADHD. Okay, so the other day, my girlfriend, she's in a cleaning frenzy, and she grabbed some boxes I had in a corner that I was trying to ignore for as long as legally permitted. And she's like, can I throw these away for you? And as confident as a man in a pinky ring, I was like, absolutely, that would be so helpful. And then we go about our day. And a little later, I get a text to Rooney, and she's like, hey, boo thing, I think you're missing a shoe. And I was like, okay, that's accusatory. I'm missing a lot of things, probably brain cells, but not a shoe. And she's like, you're definitely missing a shoe. Could it have been in a box that I threw away? Absolutely, it could have been 120%. You think I checked that box? So after her little afternoon dumpster diving, sure enough, there was a shoe. So I don't know what's worse, that I didn't check it or that she trusted me enough to not check it herself. And unfortunately, this will not be the last time either of us throw away a shoe. Anyway, thank you.
So if you want to know what it's like living in an ADHD relationship, this is something that will probably happen at least once, because you're just ignoring something somewhere. You probably don't even remember how the shoe got there, because it probably makes no sense that the shoe is in there, right? It was probably in a box with random other stuff. How did it get there? You don't remember. You certainly don't remember that it's in there. You were ignoring the boxes, so obviously you didn't check what's in there. You know you were gonna get to it at some point, but you forgot what's in there, so you were like, well, I guess I haven't missed it yet, so it can't be important. Of course you can throw them away. This is why I'm so paranoid that I can't throw anything away without checking it like 5 times. Will this probably still happen when I get like angry and I'm just like angry cleaning? Maybe. It hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it won't.
Hi, Rhea. This is what it's like to have ADHD. Students have great problems with the word leave. I should go to the grocery store today. I know my partner, she wants spaghetti, so I should probably get things for that. And while I'm at it, I mean, I should get stuff for the rest of the week. I mean, that would make sense. I should probably write it down. No, I'll remember it. That's okay. These people find it difficult. Wait. What did I just read?
Listen, when someone tells you that they get random like songs stuck in their head because someone said a word or a phrase and then their brain just starts running, I feel like it's kind of fair to kind of low-key want to accuse them of having ADHD, especially if you know them and especially if you know their child also has ADHD. But that's beside the point, because this is literally what happens. I still don't know to this day, probably because I grew up in a house with 5 other people, but I kind of managed the art of reading while, like, sort of blurring out people who are talking to me, which came in handy on my lunch break today. If I had an actual book, I would have actually hit him with it, but I had an e-reader and I didn't want to risk breaking it. I told him I was going to go on lunch break to read, and that I didn't want him to come with me because, well, I wanted to read. And he came anyways, like a bit later, luckily, and started talking to me, and I just ignored him. And I sort of listened to him, but I sort of didn't, and I still know what I read, which is just impressive. I'm just impressed with myself for that, really. But usually, this can very easily happen, because then you just, like, see a word, or they're talking about food, and it's just like, oh, right, food. What do we want to eat later? Right. I think we can make this food again. I need to go grocery shopping for that. But while I'm going out to get groceries anyways, I need to get other stuff. Is entirely fair and will probably happen more times than you wish it would. A weird experience I've had is when I was eating lunch at grad school and another student came up to me that I didn't know and went, "What's your special interest?" And I went, "Huh?" And he said, "'Cause you're autistic, right?" I responded with, "Well, I'm not diagnosed." And he said, "But you have one." And I had no choice but to answer with my special interest. That was weird. It seems a little weird, but it also seems like it makes perfect sense, because as much as queer people flock together, neurodivergent people also kind of seem to sort of flock together, but at least be able to, like, sniff each other out. Because you just see symptoms or traits where other people would just, like, kind of not see it, or just be like, well, they're just a bit quirky or a bit weird, but you know. So it seems fair that he somehow knew.
It's too much. I'm overstimulated.
Okay, if that buzzing would stop, that would be nice.
Excuse me, sir. Can you help me with something, please?
Everybody, just leave me alone, stop talking to me, and let me get this done or I will explode. I just want to be left alone. Just leave me alone.
Well, if the second one isn't me, especially if I'm in home office, like at work, in the office, it'll kind of be worse. Because everyone's constantly talking and it's just like constant background noise. But somehow, well, it's more external than internal. Like at work, in the office, it's more internal. If it's like in home office, it's more external, because I will literally be yelling at the phone to stop ringing, and yelling at people to stop calling, or yelling at people to read their emails properly so they don't have to get back to me with questions because they've been already answered. You know? So actually, it's not better or worse either way, but at least at home, I can ignore people better. because they're not right there with me and I can at least like listen to music. But still, why are people talking to me? I know that's part of my job, but why they like this, you know?
I haven't heard a lot of autistic people talk about this, but one thing that is so difficult for me and has been consistently so difficult for me, it is so difficult to like go to the doctor and explain what I'm feeling in a way that they would understand. But when I talk to autistic people, my autistic friends, they can describe something like my friend was trying to describe like her heartburn or whatever, and she was like, it just feels like a wrench. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't have non-autistic friends because y'all just don't get the vibe. And honestly, y'all say really weird things. That's really difficult for me to accept because I don't have that same experience with my autistic friends. And I'm so tired because I've noticed like nobody ever takes the time to try to understand what I'm trying to say. Like I have to figure out a way to explain it to them. Like they don't give a shit. They assume one thing, and if you try to tell them anything else, they'll literally just be like, no, I think it's this. So when I go into the doctor, I go in there knowing already what referrals that I want. I've never had an issue getting those referrals because when they're like, I don't know if that's a good idea, I don't know if insurance will cover it, I'm like, do you mind putting that down at the chart? Noting that you denied me? And you know what? Insurance always approves. Always.
Yeah, I to this day, I don't know if neurotypical people have the same problem in communicating with each other, because it seems like they don't. But maybe it's just that it's hard for me to imagine. I feel like it's probably the latter. I feel like maybe they don't have this issue. Maybe it's just like autistic people don't have communication issues with each other, but they definitely have communications issues with neurotypicals, and neurotypicals will have communication issues with autistics, but they don't think they have the communication issues, even though it's literally kind of a two-way street. But just expecting one person, aka the autistic person, to always put in the work seems unfair, and I can understand you wanting to avoid that in your private life as much as you can, actually. Okay, that was all the TikToks I have in my folder, because I am telling you I will find more on my phone or on my iPad. I know there are more lurking somewhere that I couldn't find, but I will find them eventually because somehow they hide from me. Which seems rude, but okay. So anyways, that was all the TikToks for today. I'll be back. I hope you enjoyed this collection. I hope you feel at least a little bit called out. And I hope you're hydrated, because if not, maybe drink something. If you're already plenty hydrated, don't drink more. You're just gonna need to pee and it's gonna be a whole thing. Don't do it. You know, but anyways, if not, maybe it might be a good idea. Anyways, I'm gonna go make some tea, and I'll see you in a few days with my next video.